Hi, everybody. Ian McMichael, pastor of Peace Lutheran in Colfax and Trinity Lutheran in Endicott, Washington. I am back. It's been a couple of weeks. I had some continuing ed time, so I am coming back smarter and slightly more rested, I guess you could say. So it was a good couple of weeks off. Again, both churches are currently back to worshiping in person, so I'll be doing these once a week or so, probably on Mondays, because that just seems to be what it's become. But maybe not. We'll see. It's sometime throughout the week. It'll be coming at you, and I am just using the readings from Pandemic Faith, which we've been using for the second part of this quarantine COVID time. But we haven't been using all of the readings because I've been doing it less. So I'm going back and just using readings that I like, and hopefully you do too. And so today it is from Philippians chapter 4, verses 10 through 14. And it says, I rejoice in the Lord greatly that now at last you have revived your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned for me, but had no opportunity to show it. Not that I am referring to being in need, for I have learned to be content with whatever I have. I know what it is to have little, and I know what it is to have plenty. In any and all circumstances, I have learned the secret of being well fed and of going hungry, of having plenty and of being in need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. In any case, it was kind of you to share my distress. A good reading, I think. I forgot to mention, and I should mention, I am recording this on a new cell phone, a cell phone with Verizon service, so I can get service in Endicott, and a cell phone that can be used exclusively for these types of videos and for live streaming our service on Sunday. And the reason I'm telling you that is to just give a shout out and a word of thanks to the Northwest Intermountain Synod, the synod that Endicott and Colfax are a part of, and for the grant to get that. And the cell phone is also sitting in a case to protect it and on a tripod because I didn't have one of those before. And so those were also provided by the grant from the synod. So we give thanks that we are church together, and in the very practical ways that somehow sometimes reveals itself, because it's easier. I think the picture's better, and so just giving a shout out there. Thanks, Synod. And I don't know how to connect that word of thanks to this reading, but I guess I can try. So I'm really drawn today to the idea of sharing in the distress. Just that last line. In any case, it was kind of you to share my distress. You were concerned for me, but had no opportunity to show it. I was in need. I know what it means to be this. I know what it means to be that, right? We, I think, really live in a divisive, defensive culture at this point in the United States, I guess. I don't know, maybe around the world. And maybe it's just human nature. When somebody says something that I disagree with, my first instinct is always to defend exactly what I think and tell them why I'm right. Maybe that's not your first reaction, and you could teach me how to not have that reaction. I've gotten better at stopping myself from actually saying those things, or to perhaps asking a question to clarify, to see where the person's coming from, to see if I actually understand what they're saying before I jump on them, which I think is a better way to enter into the conversation, right? Doesn't always happen, but I'm trying, and I think in many ways we all are. But the United States, the world, the country, is just an extremely defensive, divisive place. And Philippians today tells us that it's not defensiveness or divisiveness that will win the day, but we're actually called to share in those burdens. We're called to share in the burdens that we know exist. On a systemic level, there's a lot of burdens going around that people would rather fight about whether it is right or wrong, instead of ask the inquisitive question about, try to understand the other side, and then disagree with it if you'd like, but attempt in as many ways as possible to understand where that other side is coming from in these systemic issues that are engulfing the news, engulfing the world. Why do people think differently than me? And the more you learn about it, the better you will be able to either defend your position or, I think, as Christ would hope, perhaps change your position because there's been a new information input, right? To realize that it's not so this or that maybe it's in the middle that we can meet and hear each other by asking good questions and learning about what the other person thinks, right? So there's the systemic level that Lutherans often don't like to talk about. We're much more of a personal piety, a personal forgiveness. It's about my actions and what I've done, which is also in many ways biblical, right? It's about the community, which we don't necessarily concentrate on, the systemic issues, and it's about me and what I have done. We tend to concentrate more in preaching and teaching on the personal effects of it. So what does it mean for you on a personal basis to ask your neighbor simply what they need, if they're struggling, what you can do for them, how you can be involved in their life, the other. And when it's not talking about systemic issues, maybe they just need their lawn mowed, or maybe they have vegetables that need picked, but they haven't gotten out there to do it yet. We were just gone for a week and had neighbors come over and feed my hedgehog and take the trash out to the curb on garbage day. And just little things like that are extremely kind and very, very thankful for the ways that we work together on a personal basis to get things done, to identify need and to do it. Again, Lutherans are not always the best at recognizing systemic issues and asking the questions that would lead one to the point where maybe we as Lutherans do understand the other side of the issue, whatever that might be. But we try, and I think the reading from Philippians today says that is what God would want us to do. Not become divisive, not become defensive, especially defensive of what we know is right, and instead ask the questions that would lead us down a different path, a path to understanding and connection and relationship. Because ultimately, change doesn't come from defending your position, it comes from relationships anyway. So one way or the other, in order to change the other person, in order to change ourselves, relationship has to happen. And so today we're called into relationship by sharing burdens, by sharing the good and the bad, by knowing what it means to be well fed and to be hungry, to know what it means to be left alone, to know what it means to be in community. And if we haven't experienced all of those ourselves, to know what it means to connect with somebody who has. So that's our call today, and that's what I'll invite you to simply meditate on, think about as you go through your day, and we'll see you again next week as we continue these devotions. And if you'd like, you can tune into our Facebook page. They are public, so you don't even need a Facebook account to access them. You can go to Trinity Lutheran Endicott or Peace Lutheran Colfax's Facebook pages, and we'll be live streaming our services from there unless something changes. So I'd invite you to do that on Sunday. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Blessings on your week, and happy to be back. And again, thanks to the Synod for allowing this to be possible. Amen. Amen.